Sharon, we should just wait another like 2 minutes because there were three people that told me they're coming on tonight. Three other folks.
You got it.
So just give it a couple more minutes,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, no worries. I think we'll start maybe at 6:33, 6:34.
Okay.
Hi, Will Sanchez.
Hi there.
Hi, good to see you.
I see the snow is sticking up here. I don't know if, do you have the same thing?
Yeah, I just see flurries, Robin.
I just,
Nothing's sticking just
I
yet.
looked at 86th Street. It's sticking all over the place. On the street and the sidewalk, yeah.
Mhm. I think it's going to be gone by tomorrow. It's supposed to be in the 40s.
I hope so. We
You
need
don't like
that.
the snow?
I mean, I get scared of falling, so no, I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
I take
I
these
understand.
teeny little baby steps. I think we should move along now.
Okay. We'll give Gail a chance to sign on. Hi, Gail, and welcome to the Communications Committee. Thank you. You can unmute yourself, my dear. This is the Communications Committee.
Oh, we can.
Yes, you can unmute yourself. Yes. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to Community Board 8's reinvigorated Communications Committee. And I want to hand the baton over first to Will, who has some logistical things that he would like to share with the committee as a whole, and also anyone else participating on our YouTube channel. Well, I'm handing the baton over to you.
I assume Sanchez you're talking to, right?
Oh, no, I was talking to you, Will Brightbill.
Oh, no, we only have board members here. Everybody here is old hat at knowing how to run a committee meeting and how to be on Zoom.
Okay, fantastic. I thought that might be required for every meeting, but I'm so glad that you're saying that it's not. So we'll get right down to it. First of all, I have the pleasure, if not the honor, of being co-chair with Robin and of this committee, having received the baton from previous communication members, Will Sanchez, I'm looking at you. And others who were on the Communications Committee as well. Robin, why don't you start us off with talking about the mission statement? And I just wanted everyone to know that we're going to keep this meeting to under or about an hour. So that's going to be our goal for every meeting, because Robin and I appreciate you joining us and know that you are time starved. So take it away, Robin, to talk about the mission statement.
Yeah, hi Peggy, welcome. Peggy and Will, you can unmute yourselves if you'd like.
Also, I didn't see, hi Peggy. You're able to unmute yourself if you like.
Okay.
So the mission statement, which was sent earlier in email, Will, can you possibly pop that on the screen for us?
It is on the screen.
Okay. I'm not sure, my view is not right. Okay. Okay, there we go. So I won't read the whole mission statement. Valerie asked us to put this together to start with the inception of the newly revamped Communications Committee. And the Communications Committee will be addressing a more robust and enthusiastic participation from our neighbors, small businesses, and community groups. And that's what we want to do. We want to jazz up the communication to local folks and have them become more deeply engaged in matters that affect CB8, and to show them the nice things that we've done for the neighborhood, the wins and the achievements that we've made. So this evening, we'd like to hear from all of us how we go about doing that. Whatever ideas you'd like to talk about that can enhance the role of the Communications Committee and fulfill the mission that we've been assigned to take care of. So I put a couple of bullets on the agenda. That's by no means the only things we want to do. We want to do lots of different things, and again, hear from you all and give us ideas that we can collaborate on. Thanks, Sharon.
Yeah, anytime. And thank you, Robin. I want to welcome Lo to the Communications Committee meeting. I want you to know that you can unmute yourself if you like and freely participate in the discussion. One of the ideas to sort of kick this round off, if you will, one of the ideas that Robin and I had was for community board members to be community board ambassadors, going out and attending attending community meetings and talking about the community board itself. And so we're looking at, creating some type of list of talking points, and certainly doing a round robin of community meetings that we could visit and talk about the community board. The other idea I might mention as well is getting community board committee chairs more involved in CB8 Zooms as well as CB8 Speaks. So for example, Elizabeth Rose and Adam Wald, we had a unanimous vote on the rezoning, supporting the community board's initiative to rezone the remaining manufacturing lots in CB8. And it would be wonderful if they might be interested, for example, to either host a CB8 Zooms or host a CB8 Speaks or be a guest speaker. So we really wanted to reach out to committee chairs. A lot of these roles we see as rotating and not nesting with any one particular individuals such as myself or Robin. So those are just a couple of the ideas that we had, and it would be great if we could do a round robin of ideas that you might have been considering prior to tonight's meeting. Anybody? You can jump right in.
So yeah, just unmute yourself if you want to speak, and then just put yourself back on mute when you're done, so the noise from your environments doesn't just distract the meeting, please.
Oh, can you hear
And
me
I have
now?
a question.
Yes.
Peggy, are you? did you
Okay,
wanna
so
speak?
I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Could I?
Okay,
Yes,
So
you're
maybe
both.
we'd go back to raise your hand if you're going to be the first to
That's
be
a good
speaking, so
idea.
you're not all talking
Yeah.
over each other.
Yeah, you can, it's okay, Will. It's okay.
Okay.
I think Peggy, you wanted to chime in?
Well, I just wanted to say that what I think it tends to be very important is to get the word out to more of the community about topics being covered at the various committee meetings. I know that the CBA uses the that kiosk method, but I don't know how many people see that. I think social media ought to be used to broadcast to as many people as possible the prime issue at every committee meeting. It doesn't have to be the whole agenda, but it could be when whatever the key topic is, to get that out on social media and for at least a week ahead of time. Just keep blasting it till more people see it. There are local Upper East Side sites on Facebook and I guess other things, but certainly Facebook. But that's what the Women and Families Committee has tried to do. And I really think that everybody, all the committees ought to be. And the committee chairs can do that. I mean, it takes what, a minute to put something on Facebook or X if you want or whatever. But anyway, thank you.
Anytime. Gail, I know you had a question, I think.
Yes, as you will recall, at one point, Sahar and Russell were talking about creating a speakers bureau in the sense of the same concept that you have, going out to meetings, whether it's at community associations, at a condo board meeting or co-op meeting, or just a general residence facility. So it would be interesting, probably given the fact that you're looking to see who might be willing to move forward and go out into the community to discuss what it is we do, is to perhaps query the board members and see who might be willing to do that and what their ideas might be, because everybody belongs to different organizations. So that's a possibility, even if you speak
Sure.
for 5 minutes and you get on the agenda, just to talk about the highlighted important issues that the community board is addressing, it might be a step in helping us to have more outreach.
So Gail, to your point, which is excellent, how do we aggregate a list of how do we do the work of aggregating a list of, and Sahar, please feel free to jump in, because this was, I remember vividly that night that you brought it up to all of us, and it stuck with me. And so I ask you and I ask Gail and anybody else on this call, how do we aggregate that list? How do we get in touch with the appropriate person to make ourselves prominent and get in front of these groups? Like, what's the nitty gritty detail of doing this?
Yeah.
So
and
Robin, if I,
So I just wanted to welcome you, Sahar, and also Elizabeth Fuller and Sarfraz Ahmed. Thank you so much for joining us. Handing the baton over to you, Sahar. Sorry about that.
no problem. So Sharon and Robin, I think this is such a great idea that we're doing this. I know I spoke about it and then kind of didn't follow completely on it, but I'm happy to work on it again with you guys. I'm going to forward you a full proposal that I'd written and sent to Russell when he was the chair at that time. And it had all of these details, how we can reach out to community boards. And I feel like rather than reaching out in random order, we should target where we can get maximum mileage. And I think it's like, as you know, for instance, there are 3 heads that we can divide the work in. One would be the community, like the boards, the building boards. And for that, we have a wealth, like, you know, we have 50 board members. They can just help us with getting us in their own buildings, and we can go and present there. So that is one big, and that you can imagine at the board meetings, if you're announcing about the community board in general, that we are there to help, we are the voice of the neighbors, what work we do, most people don't know. That becomes very easy to also do what Peggy is mentioning, that like kind of telling people, please go towards our website and also be on a lookout. And if you know anything you feel very particular about, these are the committees that work. So that's one. The other thing would be the schools. We have so many schools, private and public, on the Upper East Side in our community board, CB8. And that I have some places I have already connections with the community service directors. I could ask them because of my own work, of my own organization's work. I could reach out to them and see if we can go and again, this would be something we would have to speak with these individuals and see how far we can go. But I was thinking that if we can go and present at a PA meeting and get ourselves be like kind of introduced there. Maybe they have a staff meeting, not sure if they do or not, but I know PA meetings happen, and we can go and speak about the community board and its work. I mean, the youth committee that we have, that is so connected to the work of these schools, and you can see all the parents are sitting there. So like that's another way you're reaching out to the neighbors, and they would suddenly like, you know, the word will get out about the community board. Third was I had written about the stores that I can see the businesses. I feel like maybe that, since obviously we all have limited time and resources, so I would say that probably would be the best to do in the last, just because I think since everyone who comes in to establish their business in our district, they already have to get a license, right? The resolution is passed for them. They need to get a permit, and then things move forward. They are already aware about our work. So I feel like if we are looking at what to prioritize, I would say the community boards of the buildings. And that way, first, those 50 board members can help. And then maybe I have 3 friends and I can ask them, can we come and present at your board meeting? And that way you can just see how much of an outreach we can do. And I'm sure once we do this, then the word will go, like, you know, people will learn that this is what the community board is doing. I'm sure we would start getting invitations as well. And that is something that what Peggy was mentioning, maybe we can put that in the link NYC, that if you would like to invite us to talk about the community board, this is the email or the phone number, whatever, you know, because it's a limited messaging that you can do. I think Will can guide us better. But that way as well, a neighbor who sees, maybe you might have some takers from there, and people might be like, okay, let me call and get the communication committee to come and present. And I think I was working, Will had helped a lot, something on the presentation as well. I can look up all that stuff and then forward it to you guys.
Okay,
I'm
thank
not,
you.
I'm
So-
in Pakistan, so
so
please
the
give me
ta-
some time to do so.
The takeaway, so we've got to compile a list. Maybe it's a little bit tedious, but we've got to compile a list of the appropriate people in building management, in schools, in religious institutions, and in other types of community groups that I'm not even aware of. Identify the correct person and let this person know we'd like to come in, give us 15 minutes to speak with your folks about CB8. And the hard part of this is making that list. Once we have that list, I think it's easier to send a nice email and do the reach out and so forth. But it's getting that list together of who we need to drill down into. Barbara Rudder, I'm sorry, please.
I have a few things. I'm going to start with what I was going to start with, and then I'll answer what was talked about now. First of all, before COVID and a while ago, and Peggy knows this, we did a lot of posting. I know Will said, and I do see it, that when an application comes to us, whether it's from a restaurant or for landmarks, they are expected to post. Posting on post, it doesn't reach everybody, of course not, but it does reach. I think Peggy's idea of going, I want to talk to her about what social media, I'm not a good social media point, but I think that's very important. The other thing to get the word out, we've had several meetings that were controversial, that and my committee was one of them, where people come and say, they come to the meeting and they say, well, nobody knew about this in my building or the school. Well, you knew about it, so why didn't you get people to come? So one of the words out we have to do is when you see something, when I think that sitting at the tables, I do it every year, almost every single one. And I always say to them, if you look at the agenda, if you see something that pertains to you, make sure that others know. I would love to go back to posting generally. I mean, social media would be some, but I do immediately see the community board aid posts on, and I see people looking at it. And I know some meetings that I had in the past that we really did get people that way.
Barbara, excuse me, you see these posts where? You see people?
On lamp posts, on the
Oh, okay.
posts.
Okay, the meeting announcements.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the type of thing. To go back to this general thing, I think we have to be very careful. I know that every chair that I've worked with is very careful, and I think it comes from all the borough presidents to make sure that we have a controlled things that we say, that when we go and talk, we can't just talk generally. We also have to be very careful that we don't mix other organizations that we belong to sort of mix the message up. So I think that there has to be a very, and Will, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I think there has to be a very specific presentation if we do it. I think we can do it on specific things. I wasn't good enough to do it, but when I was running the environment committee about composting, I try to have my building and other buildings come. I did get several of my friends, but not enough of the chair of my board because they tend to not do these things. But this was something that affected the buildings. You know, there are things that we have that affect the buildings and specific. But it worries me, this very general idea of not having control, of having other people come in and helping us with it, and so on. I think I do know that I've spoken to Valerie, and she and previous chairs have been very upset when people have gone rogue with their message. So there has to be some sort of control about it.
So one of the,
I think
Just to
with that, we have
clarify,
to-
yeah,
Will
Go ahead,
have
Robin.
to be checking everything, right? Like the presentations, everything will go back to Will, and he would probably be checking the presentation and like having a formal one. And that same thing, like if a few people are doing it, maybe they go through it with like a, it could be
Yeah,
Will,
I
could be
think that
Valerie,
that's a
could be
very
the
good
two of you.
idea.
Yeah, having a team so that people know what people will be speaking, and there should always be at least two people from the board that are going in, so that, I mean, there's so many questions. Everybody has their own expertise as well on the board with the committees that we work for. So it just helps in answering questions. And I think um, Will and Valerie could be, and the two of you could be the the board that checks the final presentation, and that same presentation is done everywhere so that it is very vetted out before the presentations are done.
Yeah, so we were
Sure.
thinking, we were thinking of actually writing a speech for everybody to present.
A script, as a matter of fact.
A script, with both talking about what the community board is, the history of community boards, and then speaking specifically about CB8 and why it's important that, so you know what we would say, and this would be
I
vetted
really
by.
don't. I don't.
this-
Should
this-
it be, I think that what people would be interested in is possibly something more specific, because it's the thing I worked on, composting, for instance, or a landmark building or something, something, what is landmarking, maybe to go to the Park Avenue buildings as an example. Not my building, because it's not landmark. um, that type of thing to talk about. Robin, I would love if your building met with maybe some of the bids to talk about what does a bid do? Why do, we entertain, or what we can do to maybe encourage a better street on 86th Street than we have right now.
Well, Barbara, one of the things that Valerie very specifically mentioned to me was that she wants us to get out there and show what CB8 did for the neighborhood. In other
Right.
words, we had a street closure for a school, or whatever the case may
That's
be.
right.
So
But would it be
what
specific? Would I go to some other place to talk about the Stevenson School having a closed? I mean, would you want to target it to be something
that
more or
that's
very
hard.
general?
Then that's hard, because then you're writing a different script for every different organization.
Yeah,
I think
I think initially when Robin and I were talking about this, Barbara, it was really more to focus on the community board itself. However, and I think that is the way to go, at least initially. However, I understand the need for specificity. And certainly that will interest our audience a great deal if it's
A
something that,
specific
for
audience,
example,
right?
is happening on their block. And so I think that's absolutely a wonderful idea. Initially, though, so that we can roll this out, within some type of framework. It should just be on what is a community board, for example, how community boards were formed and how you can participate. And I think that we can evolve into bringing additional, more pertinent information depending on who we are talking to. But I think Robin is right on this, and that it's something that can be done, but it's something that is going to require a significant degree of crafting, depending on the building that we're communicating with.
Okay. Can I just ask another question? What is the
Totally.
end? What worries me a little bit is there's so much news apply to the community board, apply to the community board. You, if you want to be a public member, you have to apply, which my public members are not applying, so I don't know if they'll be reaccepted. We have 3 openings. I do know people get upset when they're not appointed. I'm so great, and yet I'm not being reappointed. I wonder if we're trying to make that like an issue. We want you to be involved and join the community board when we really are very limited.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I mean, the application process is going to close at the end of February.
Yeah.
So that would not be the end goal. I think the end goal is to have people attend and participate at the committee level and also on the full board level. It's those that, from my perspective, and that, you know, has to be weighted with what the committee is thinking of. But from my perspective, that would be certainly a target goal to increase committee participation and full board participation.
I totally agree, Sharon. I totally agree. And I will say I learned a lot from being co-chair with Peggy, I have to say. And one of the things I do, like Peggy does, is send out to everybody in my phone book. I mean, my friends as well as you guys, if you're in my phone book. I think, Robin, you've gotten a couple. And I try to get it out of the 45, 50 I send, I get 3 people. You know.
Yes, well, you and Peggy are the gold standard. So, you know, we're definitely
Peggy is,
going
I'm
to
the
get
follower.
there. we're going to definitely make that effort. I want to do a time check because it's almost 7 o'clock, and we're trying to end the meeting in 30 minutes. I also wanted to, just one second. I also wanted to welcome Vivian. You can unmute yourself. This being the Communications Committee, hello and welcome.
Hi, Vivian.
Sharon.
Vivian, okay.
Hi.
Let's get to Lo and Gail and Sahar before we
Oh, yes, thank
put
you.
on our pajamas here.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you. Lo, and you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. This is Lo Vandervalk representing Carnegie Hill Neighbors. I think it came up earlier in this meeting of the posting on the lampposts of announcements of matters that come before the various committees of the community board. I have to say that that is extremely effective, because you walk by and you know where that's going to be. When you see it, you recognize it, and you're inclined to want to read it. And whereas you're showered with messages on your email, and you don't always pick up everything that is pertaining to you. I wonder if in the long term, it can't be done in 1 or 2 meetings, but this can be examined in an expanded format so that there's a physical communications board in the various areas of CB8, maybe segmented it into 11 areas where people could go and see physically what things are happening. In the old days, banks used to do that. Banks used to have bulletin boards, but they don't do that anymore. Everything is streamlined nowadays. We're into efficiency, and banks don't want to share their media, you know, their power of communication, and they don't want to be identified with crazy people that put up signs if it's not regulated. So it's a hard problem, but I would be in favor of the old-fashioned bulletin board, and this is a longer range project, I recognize, but I'm just putting in my 2 cents, and I have to say that to me it's very effective, it's very immediate, it's very physical, and what's unique about community boards, they are immediate and they are physical.
Well, what does that look like? Where for starters? What would that
well, maybe you know, maybe it should be piece of street furniture in selective places that occupies a larger area. We have so much cluttered street furniture as it is. For example, the Jewish Museum at 92nd Street and Fifth Avenue has its own bulletin board, and it does advertising that way. But if something like this could be, selected, maybe only 10 in all of community board 8 area, but people would eventually get used to it, and they would go to it, say, once a week, and make a point of, if they wanted to know what was going on. Maybe it could be done electronically, but that's why I'm saying this can't be resolved in one meeting. It needs to be discussed, and options need to be presented, and there needs to be maybe some experimentation. But I just thought I would throw it out. And it's an
I
expansion.
think it's a wonderful idea, Lo. And I wanted to ask you about the Linksys kiosk, because I think that, and I have seen Community Board 8 on those kiosks. I think that they're very effective. Will Brightville, oh, well, who is it, the CB8 office that puts that information on the kiosk, or?
Yeah, so
Link
Link provides free advertising for community boards for our committee meetings and our full board meetings. They do not provide free advertising for, everything. And so we have a form that we fill out for our committee meetings and our full board meeting that post in segmented times, based on when the meeting's going to be. And they're geographically, tailored for us. But yes, we post those every time we put a new meeting on our calendar. We have to send an email to fill out a form.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
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 I've definitely have seen, has anyone else seen the community board information on the kiosk?
The problem for
You can't, yeah.
the problem
yeah.
for me is that it refreshes too quickly. That's my issue with it. It needs
Okay,
to not, now we may have no control over that.
We have no control over that.
They refresh it when, how they refresh it, but it's too zippy.
Yes, and it's mixed in with all their own advertising. So it's not really a dedicated community bulletin board. So and I wouldn't want to do it through them. That's my personal opinion, because we are opposed to a lot of the 5G initiatives, and also that's congregated heavily on Third Avenue in Carnegie Hill, for example. But I'm thinking of a more discrete physical, as small as possible, but in some location where people know they can visit it permanently.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lo. Sahar, Peggy, Sahar, Gail, and Peggy. Sahar?
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to add that we were talking previously about ways of doing it. So I think with Will had sent me some stuff too. I was trying to make a presentation with very basic stuff about our community board. So I can forward it to you, Sharon and Robin, and it's like and I can then, I'll be happy to help, and you guys can guide, because it had very simple things. What's a community board? What we do? Which are our committees? Like very simple stuff, some basics which we can use. And then if you want to just add into it, we can add some stuff. We can also make a slideshow where, like, depending on where we are going to present, we can take some slides off. Like for schools, we can have a separate slide deck, and for the building board, we can have a different slide deck, because we know the profile of people that are coming. And so I can forward that to you. Just wanted to give that kind of info.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
It was still work in progress. Yeah,
Gail?
and Will was helping with stuff.
Yeah, Gail, Peggy. Gail is next, and then Peggy.
I wanted to reinforce what Lo said about the posting of flyers and all. Sahar and Alita, prior to our art show, have posted our flyers, and I really believe that the way in which they did it enabled us to get a much larger turnout, not just of people who are wandering by and thinking that they might want to buy some art, but even getting additional artists. As soon as those posters went up, we got a lot more outreach calls back to us. And secondly, when it comes to putting these lists together, I agree with Robin. It's very labor intensive, and I think we have to identify the types of organizations that we want to do outreach to. And my thought is that it's going to be organizations that really don't know about the community board. Barbara, CB8 sits on the Madison Avenue bid board as well as on the East Midtown Partnership. So anytime there is an issue that involves the community board members know about us. You know, they've dealt with us with congestion pricing and a whole cross-section of different issues, including containerization of garbage, which currently bids are now required to have. It's just going to be really a mess for them. So I think that bids are great to, keep in touch with, but they're not our target audience, nor would be the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce. They already have relationships with us. I think we have to really, if we're going to put out effort, we have to think in terms of maybe starting with community board members, finding out what organizations they might be a part of, and whether or not those organizations are even aware that we exist, and then helping us to find the point person so that we could then do further outreach.
Yeah, excellent idea. I think I neglected to welcome Judy Snyder. Also, I appreciate you taking the time to join us, Judy. We can, that's an excellent idea, Gail, approaching community board members. And then also we could certainly do outreach as well through our e-blast that we do, asking for information regarding boards, or if people want to have someone from the community board speak to them about the community board. So that's a possibility as well. Peggy, Sahar, and then Judy.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, yeah, you
Oh,
can
okay.
unmute
Yeah.
yourself.
So in terms of getting more information about the community board and to the attention of the public at large, I do think that either Valerie or you, Sharon, and Robin ought to get some kind of article, first of all, in patch.com, and a broad discussion with one of the writers about what's going on right now. I mean, and include specifics of about what the committees are doing. Just to say, knock on doors and to say, hi, we're the community board. People don't relate to that. They relate to an issue. They relate to, it is someone buying my building and kicking me out. To the extent that we get participation in the community board, it's because an individual or group is affected, and that's where you get their attention. So, but how do you reach them broadly in a short amount of time? You start with the media, and the easiest to get into for us is patch.com. And have a discussion and have information not only about what is a community board, but what are we doing now, and very specifically. And the ideal person to do that, I would say, would be Valerie. But if you, Sharon, and Robin do it, that's fine too. Someone needs to do it, because
What if I told you that it already happened?
Well, when did that happen? I didn't see the article.
2 weeks ago.
Okay. Well, then that obviously didn't reach enough
Like
people.
having a meeting with the local editor of Patch Upper East Side. Yeah. Valerie and I met with that new editor like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
But was it published? Was it published?
I mean, you can't force them to publish anything.
So that's why I didn't see it.
if it
Yeah,
was.
I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
see
No, I
it.
mean, like having a conversation with them is what you're saying.
Well, they should do a story,
So-
and that should be the premise
We
about getting
gave
in
them
touch with
ideas of
them.
things to write about.
Wait, I do apologize, Will, go ahead
Yeah.
and finish, Peggy.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to have a slant, but the slant, if we're trying to educate a large swath of the community, is what not only is what is a community board or what is our community board, but the very specific topics that are coming up now. And if this didn't happen in the first round, that it wasn't newsy enough, well, let's go back to them and make it newsier for them. But it needs to happen, because just individuals knocking on doors or going to an organization doesn't reach a wide swath of the community. That's why I keep harping on this whole issue of use social media more, be on the raft of sites available. And within, say, Facebook, there are, as I said, sites specifically for the Upper East Side, women's groups, specific groups that are housing within Facebook. Get to these people, but the fastest, easiest way is through social media. But if you're going to use social media, make sure you've got a flyer. I mean, Gail and I do that with our programs. We wouldn't have a program till we didn't create as catchy as possible a flyer so that the public can see and relate. If we just put out the agenda that looks like some kind of officious government program, it doesn't catch people's attention. You need a flyer. And that's something that the communications committee could help different committees do with. If the committee themselves doesn't know how to put together a flyer. Gail and I have helped the arts committee, for example, put together their flyers. And the arts committee is the other committee besides arts that always does a flyer. It's very effective, as Gail said, but you need it to get people's attention. So those are my suggestions, and thank you.
Yeah, no, they're wonderful, wonderful suggestions, and thank you so much. It's important to explore a variety of modalities to get the word out, and I think all of those suggestions are really a good starting point for us. And with respect to social media in particular, certainly you're right, and it's good to harp on that, because a lot of people are connected in that way, but a lot of people are not, which is, again, which is helpful to have the flyer, to do the posting, to have a community bulletin board. I love the idea. I'm always stopping and reading something anywhere. And so I appreciate Lo for mentioning that, because that's certainly a place where we might be able to place one of those flyers. Judy and Lois next. Judy, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. I I think not just Patch, but I know I read AM New York every day. I read The Gothamist every day. Nick Garber, who used to write for Patch, now writes for Cranes. I mean, if we can get hold of him, I used to have a relationship with him. Haven't spoken to him in years, but I mean, if we give them good enough story material, even Cranes would write a story. I haven't seen anything in Cranes recently about community boards, but they've certainly written about enough issues that are going on in various community boards. So maybe it's time for Will to reach out and have Valerie talk with Nick Garber, and maybe he'll do an article on community boards and specialize on Board 8. Also, besides other media, besides Patch, I think another place that you can reach out to because I know some of the groups are aware of the community board, but I'm not sure all the neighborhood associations. I know ESNA is very aware, and we post stuff and we send out emails and flyers on things that concern our community, like when MSK was having its first meetings on the pavilion building that they're building. We made sure that all of our people in the neighborhood knew. There's the ESPOA, the East 60s Neighborhood Association, the East 60s Property Owners. There's Kathy Jalowitz's association. There's the 70th Block. I mean, there's Valerie's, the 72nd Street. So maybe when you put that list together, you should put a list together of all the various different Lowe's group, all the different neighborhood associations. And then when you put these flyers together or whatever the issue is on a particular week that you want to get out, you send it to a contact at each of these associations, and we have a bulletin board, so we post there, but we send out emails. Depending on what the issue is, we may even list it on our website for a week or two, depending on how important the issue is. So I think that's another area you have to look at making a list of.
I just want to say, Sharon, I know you're watching the clock assiduously.
I
So
am.
I'm
I'm the timekeeper.
I just want to say one thing real quick. I want to assign homework to everybody. Would you all take a look at our website? And next month, can we discuss ways to better it, improve it, make it cleaner, easier? Any ideas you have for our website, please? I'd like to discuss that next week.
I just had
Next month.
one other
Next month.
thing to say to Will in concert with everybody else. Will, is there no way that we can talk to those people that run Link NYC to get them to make the showing a little longer? It really is, I don't know, maybe
We can
some of
always
us-
ask.
Yeah, it
maybe
does.
some of us are seniors and it's more difficult, but everybody seems to be agreeing on that it goes by too quickly. And particularly if you're walking down the street and you weren't looking at it at the beginning of the ad, you say, gee, what was the first part of the ad? I missed that. And then do I want to stand around for 10 or 15 minutes until they play it again? So I don't know if you can do anything.
No, it does refresh very quickly. So if you could make that request, fine, but we understand that it's completely out of our hands. Lo? You can unmute yourself, Lo.
Although I accidentally muted you trying to unmute you.
Okay. This is Lo speaking. I would like to say, and Robin touched on this, how better to inform people of what's going on in Community Board 8. And one of the things is the community board members are very well informed. So when we lead up to the full board meeting at the end of the month or middle of the month, you all know what the committees have discussed and what the committees are recommending. But the general public has no way of finding that out. And so I would say, and Community Board 11 does a very good job of informing the public of what the committees have decided before the full board. So my request is that there be a way to inform the public of what the committees will bring up to the full board for a vote and what the subcommittee votes have been. That's my request. And I think you'll get a lot of audience for that.
But
the
we
reason
do post all those onto our
that's
website, but they're
that's posted.
dependent on the co-chairs
Yeah.
turning in their minutes.
Barbara?
A couple of things. One thought I have in our town, I know two people that get paid for it. We don't have to, that actually write articles. One writes on medical things and so on. Why can't we say we won't get paid for it, but can somebody write an article every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks about what's in your community board, what's coming up this week? that type of thing. Maybe they would like an article about that. And I know people do read our town and read these specific articles.
I thought
Another
our
thing,
town did that. Why am
not
I
just
having a
what
memory
would they
of
do it,
that happening? I thought they did do that, but I
not that
thought,
I ever heard of. Number two, I did. I was asked to do posting for the art show. I went and it was the time when it was 99 degrees and the art show was canceled. So I had to go back and take off all of the postings I did. I still think that I know there were negatives. There was a point that some people remember Terry Slater and I were co-chair of a posting committee to say what are the pluses and minuses. There's something about standing waiting for a light and seeing a poster on it that is, I think, nothing's 100%, but it's very effective. And I still think that. I just want to make one comment about what Gail said. I think what she said fed in exactly. So I'm using 86th Street because that's the street I'm closest to, and I think it needs help, and I would like to see a bid there. So if somebody like Gail went and said, what work are we doing on the Madison Avenue bid? It may cause some interest in these buildings. We have so many new buildings going up on 86th Street that would listen to what's said and what are the benefits, which I think Madison Avenue looks fantastic. And so that's really what I meant, Gail, when I said it. I think that Madison Avenue is is a goal that we should reach for, and it may stir up some interest from building people and co-ops around 86th Street that don't even know about it.
Well, interestingly, for the past couple of years, there has been an ongoing effort led by Carnegie Hill Neighbors and also the East 86th Street Association looking to create a bid, and I've been working with that group. Part of the problem, interestingly, is most bids are financed through the
Like the
businesses,
buildings.
through the commercial entities.
Yeah.
In this case, 73% of the neighborhood basic boundaries that we think would be appropriate for the bid are residential. So what we're doing now is working on an assessment formula to try to figure out if that's possible. And then it's a matter of doing outreach to in a co-op, every building would be assessed. In a condo, every individual condo owner would be assessed because they have the leasehold. So we will have those names down the road. We don't have them yet. It's just a
And
matter
is
of
that
getting
like
ready
you
to
as a
do that
community
outreach.
board person? Would you come to the residents around 86th Street, including my building, which is 87th Street, and talk about the work you're doing? I mean, I didn't know that there was any ongoing talk about bids. I mean, I heard rumors once in a while. It's never come to the community board.
Well, you do come once you reach that point where you start to actually have coalesced. Right now, it's always been hard to get the financing, and it's very labor intensive. And so Carnegie Hill has done as much as they can with their staff. With East 86th Street, there's a problem because they don't have any paid staff either. So it's all a matter now of volunteers doing
Yeah.
outreach. And there are 2 or 3 buildings that have been the Bronson, and then there's one where Susan Gottridge lives. So, we're starting to get some momentum, and we're
Please
hopeful.
do. But I do think that possibly this is the type of talk, and I would love to hear you talk about it. Come to my building and talk about it. That maybe get more
Sure,
outreach
I'm
from
happy
people.
to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if they.
okay, it is 7:28,
Oh.
and I'm ruthless about time. And because I want you to come back next month as well, and know that meetings are going to start at a specific time and end at a specific time. We really appreciate you joining us. Robin, or do you have any last words before we
Amen.
Did you say amen?
I did. My last word is I'll have a couple. Thank you guys for coming. It was great seeing everybody. Your smiling, beautiful faces. Thank you. And please come next month and let's talk about the website. I think it's critical that we all put our 2 cents in about that. So take a look for a couple of minutes and come with some ideas. And just to reiterate what Sharon said, thank you all so much for being here. This was our first meeting and I think it was lovely. So thank you.
Yes, thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody. Thank you. Look for the minutes. Thank you,
Is there a motion
Will.
to adjourn?
I move.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.